November 6, 1997. Mexican police receive an anonymous tip about a foul smell coming from the side of Highway 95. They find 3 steel drums, industrial grade, welded shut. The officers on the scene assume it's toxic waste, as illegal dumping is common here. They call for a blowtorch. When they crack the first drum open, they don't find chemicals, they find wet, heavy concrete. And sticking out of the grey slurry is a human hand. These weren't low-level snitches. These were some of the most respected surgeons in Mexico City. Jaime Godoy, Ricardo Reyes, Alexander de Jesus. 4 months earlier, these men had been hired to perform a medical procedure on a high-profile patient. The patient who walked into their clinic was worth $25 billion. He walked out in a coffin. And the doctors, they were sent a message that would rot on the side of a highway. This is the story of Amado Carrillo Fuentes. In the 1980s, the cartels were moving products like movers helping you leave an apartment, vans, pickup trucks, small Cessnas that crashed if you put 1 too many kilos in the back. It was slow. It was amateur. Amado went to the US. He bought 4 Boeing 727. He bought them legally. He hired real airline pilots, men with uniforms, pensions and families, creating his own airline, 1 flight. 14 tons, $100 million in profit in a single night. The DEA called it the Federation, but Amado ran it like FedEx. He flew his jets on commercial flight paths. He filed flight plans. He hid in plain sight. When the DEA saw a 727 on radar, they assumed it was Delta or American Airlines. By the time they realized the flight number didn't exist, Amado was already unloading in the Sonora Desert. That amount of money cannot be moved without making any noise. By 1996, Amado was the most wanted man in the Western Hemisphere. The US put pressure on Mexico. Get him or we decertify you. Amado knew they were coming. He had spies everywhere, but even spies can't stop a dragnet. August 7, 1992, Amado was inside a truck consisting of tons of cocaine. He notices immediately. The road is empty. No trucks, no vendors, no stray dogs. That's when he sees the headlights vanish behind him. Not approaching, disappearing. His driver tightens his grip on the wheel. Amado doesn't panic. He never does. Slow down, he says calmly. That's not traffic control. That's a trap. 2 kilometers ahead, the road curves, and suddenly floodlights explode out from the darkness. Military trucks, federal police, automatic rifles raised, a perfect kill zone. The driver slams the brakes, but Amado already saw the exit, a dirt service road barely visible in the darkness. The truck swerves violently, tires screaming, crashing through brush as gunfire erupts behind them. Bullets tear through metal, glass explodes, the rear part of the vehicle catches fire. They're not escaping, they're being herded. Ahead, another blockade emerges, but this one hesitates. Confusion. Amado smiles. Because confusion means someone wasn't paid. His convoy crashes through the gap as one officer hesitates just long enough. Minutes later, helicopters roar overhead. Infrared cameras sweep the desert. The truck skids to a stop near an abandoned farmhouse. Amado exits, removes his jacket, and hands it to one of his men. "You drive south," he says, fast. The man realizes the truth too late. Amado disappears into a dry riverbed as the helicopters descend, following the wrong vehicle. By sunrise, federal forces celebrate a failed operation. They never even saw his face. Amado was attending his sister's wedding in Mexico, where he comes to know they are 3 minutes out. Black Hawks. Amado looks at his sister. She nods, terrified, and he walks out of the wedding. The Mexican Special Forces descended on his sister's wedding. They expected a firefight. They expected resistance. They secured the venue in 60 seconds. They lined up the guests. They checked every room. But Amado wasn't there. He hadn't run away from the raid. He had driven through it before the perimeter closed, disguised as a farmhand. He watched the helicopters circle his own house from the rearview mirror of a beat-up Chevy, but the escapes were getting narrower. In early 1997, Mexican federal police received intelligence that Amado would be traveling through Sinaloa. Roadblocks were set, helicopters deployed, but when authorities arrived, they found nothing. No convoy, no guards, just a burning vehicle on a dirt road. Inside were bodies, burned beyond recognition. The message was clear: the more you chase, the more bodies would pile up. What authorities didn't know was that Amado had already crossed the country using back roads, private airstrips, and identities prepared years in advance. This wasn't improvisation. This was a plan written long before the chase began. Power doesn't survive without protection. So Amado bought it. Airport officials, military commanders, federal police, customs agents, entire radar systems were turned off on command. Flights landed without inspection. Cocaine moved faster than paperwork. At his peak, estimates placed Amado's wealth at over $25 billion. That made him richer than most CEOs, more powerful than some presidents, and far more dangerous. Because unlike violent cartels, Amado didn't create chaos. December 4th, 1994, Amado decided to meet his rival cartel for a deal. A rival cartel, armed, funded, and tired of paying tribute. The meeting was supposed to be neutral. A warehouse near Ciudad Juárez. Concrete floors, bare bulbs, too many guns. Amado walks in alone. That's how he knows something's wrong. No leader waits alone. The doors slam shut, weapons rise. The other cartel boss steps forward. "You own the sky," he says, "but tonight you're on the ground." Gunfire erupts instantly. Chaos. Amado dives behind a forklift as bullets rip through crates. His men return fire, but they're outnumbered. This wasn't a negotiation, it was an execution. Smoke fills the room. Someone screams. Amado crawls through shadows, grabs a fallen rifle, fires without aiming. He's not fighting to win, he's fighting to break contact. A grenade detonates near the entrance, not from his men, from outside. The walls shake, everyone freezes. Then another explosion, and another. The rival cartel never realized Amado had paid their security team weeks earlier. The back wall collapses. Amado walks out as his enemies scramble in confusion. By morning, the rival cartel's leadership is dead. The Juárez Cartel survives, barely. July 5th, 1995. The tip reaches federal police late. Too late to coordinate properly. A convoy is reported moving north, possibly Amado, possibly a decoy. No one is sure. The information comes from a paid informant who has lied before. Still, the order is given. Set up a roadblock. Not a dramatic one, just 2 patrol trucks, portable spikes, and a dozen nervous officers who know exactly who they might be stopping. The highway is quiet, no sirens, no helicopters yet. Then headlights appear. 3 vehicles, civilian SUVs, no markings. The officers hesitate. This is how things go wrong. As the lead SUV slows, one officer steps forward too early. Another raises his rifle too late. Someone shouts contradictory orders. And in that confusion, the second vehicle accelerates. Gunfire breaks out, but it's sloppy. No coordinated firing. Bullets hit asphalt, doors, nothing vital. The convoy splits. One SUV smashes through the spikes, tires shredding, sparks flying. The third vehicle turns sharply onto a secondary road that barely shows up on maps. Police pursue, but radios fail. One unit loses signal, another follows the wrong vehicle. By the time backup arrives, they've detained the wrong men. Low-level operators, nervous, disposable. Amado isn't among them. Later, an internal report concludes the same thing it always does. Operational failure due to lack of reliable intelligence. No one is disciplined. No one admits how close they came. In Mexico City, the safe house in Juárez, he was running out of safe harbors. He had $25 billion, but nowhere to spend it. He looked at his face and realized that his face was his prison. As long as he looked like Amado Carrillo Fuentes, he was a dead man. July 3rd, 1997. Amado checks into the Santa Monica Maternity Hospital under the name Antonio Flores. He brings his own security. They take over an entire floor. The plan was drastic. 8 hours of surgery, liposuction to remove the fat from his torso, rhinoplasty to change the nose, and facial restructuring to alter the jawline. He wanted to wake up a stranger. The surgery goes late into the night. July 4th begins. The doctors are exhausted, Dormicum, a powerful sedative. But Amado had a bad heart, a heart strained by years of cocaine use and stress. There is a moment in every surgery where things go wrong. But when the patient is the head of the Juárez Cartel, wrong isn't an option. At 4 a.m, the Lord of the Skies was pronounced dead. The DEA rushed to the funeral home. They needed to see the body. They needed proof. But what they found only created more questions. The face was a mess of stitches and bruising. Identification was impossible by sight. They relied on fingerprints. The Mexican government announced, "It's a match." But the DEA agents on the ground weren't so sure. Some agents said the fingerprints match, but the scars don't. Rumors started spreading immediately that the man on the table was a double. The reality still remains uncertain. This was the story of Amado Carrillo Fuentes.